a shout out to y'all to thank you for helping us out with that. And again, being professional, being safe, that kind of thing. So, since June, we've been open. We've, had you guys and public coming back in, but doing it the right way. And even though Arizona, as I'm sure a lot of you have seen, has numerous times had like the highest transmission rates in the world, that kind of thing, we've remained really safe. And of course, we keep rocking the business. So, with everything going on, the additional sanitation and all that, we've had no transmissions within the office. We've had, I believe, one exposure that resulted in no transmission. Because we did all the appropriate protocols, notices, things like that. So again, just thank you all for participating in that. And just another reminder, if you haven't been in, please do. We're kind of experts at this whole thing right now, and we've got some great facilities for you. We always love seeing you in the office, even if it's just popping in for a few. That's a good thing. But again, you need those meeting places. They're available. We keep them well sanitized for you, and between every set of clients, that kind of thing. So don't forget that those are there and available to you. And the other thing I wanted to mention is with the new year here has brought a lot of people, moving around and retooling things, and a lot more interest in getting back into the office. So if you're interested in private office space as well for you or your team, or just, workspace individually, whatever it may be, definitely let us know right now. Now is the time to do it while we're actually figuring out where everyone goes. So if you're interested, just let us know. All right, we always love to share positivity as well. So a lot of kudos here. These are from other agents after a transaction closes. We get so many great things said about you guys, but I'll share just a couple real quick here. So the Claycoles, always a pleasure to work with Candy and Chris, very professional and organized. Patty, she was very pleasant and easy to work with. She followed up with whatever was needed from her end. Follow through is always a good thing. Chuck Bills, working with Chuck was seamless and the transaction moved through to closing exactly as expected. It was a real pleasure in the middle of the COVID restrictions we are experiencing. Would love to work with Chuck anytime again. That's a good thing. Keep being professional, keep being great, and you know what? Keep being nice to people out there. That really makes a difference. Likewise, as I just mentioned, even through all this, you guys are just rocking it. You're still amazing professionals. And, this is December and January we've got here. Again, a little early still to get the final February numbers, but, look at January. I mean, January is typically a slower month. And we've just further increased our lead in productivity per agent over, pretty much all of our competitors there. And again, it's because of those things that we just briefly talked about, what you guys are actually out there doing for your clients, making things happen. Again, you guys are just astounding, and keep it up. The other thing I wanted to mention is, if you're having a challenge with anything right now, please let us know. We are here to help you out. We're here to do that coaching. We're here to work on strategy. We've got 15 people that have already qualified for various production club levels, and a few people already over 250K. So, if you're not averaging 50 or 100K a month in GCI right now, we're happy to help you out with that. Those results may not be typical for everyone, but the point of me saying that is simply this: with the right strategy and the right hustle out there right now, you can make those things happen. So if you're just not quite aligned yet with what you want to do, where you want to be, just let us know. We want to jump in with you and help out with that. Also, quick FYI, at noon today, 2 p.m. Eastern, we've got the RE/MAX, the Network Awards. So those are some of the national and worldwide things that they're doing. If you're interested in tuning into that, just jump on the MAX Center and you'll see the big event banner up there. Those are always fun to see. Cool to see what's going on out there in the world, kind of inspirational, that kind of thing. And if you want to check that out later, you can, of course, replay that anytime just by logging into MAX Center at remax.net. Further celebrating that stuff, don't forget, next Friday, 5 to 7, we're doing another awards and just general celebration event. We had a lot of fun with that last time. Yeah, it's still virtual, but we're getting real close to being able to do things, a little bit more normally again. So we're excited about that, but this will be fun. So please join us for that. We got a lot of fun stuff going on there, and some great things we want to make sure we recognize as well. And speaking of events, generally speaking, we've got, again, a number of those in-person or outdoor, other things in the works here as we're getting, also into a little bit warmer weather. Also, I want to remind everyone briefly that, we opened September 11, 2001. So that means that we're coming right up on the 20th anniversary for RE/MAX Professionals. So we're going to do something fun for that as well. So keep your ears open. Another quick thing, there's been a little communication about this, but FYI, if you didn't see it in one of those others, There's a little bump in the LLC continuing franchise fee. It's the first time that they've made any adjustments there in about 5 years. So, you know, cost of business and things like that. But that's going up $5 in April, depending on the plan you're on. If you're on an annual or one of those various other things that's already built in, you won't see that. If you're paying any of that pass through, you may. So just an FYI, that will be coming through there. But along with that, we do have a lot of awesome service we get out of that. One thing that I thought was cool, I'm going to spend 10 seconds on here, is some of the advertising that we're putting out there on social and you know, Instagram and a lot of those other channels, Facebook, etc. There's been some really cool work recently about removing friction between the client and us as far as how they actually, you know, put in a request or get additional information. And on almost all those platforms now, we've got inline stuff, so they don't even have to be taken away to somewhere else or a different site. You know, to actually request more information or showing or things like that. It's right in line, it just appears directly. And we've already seen a pretty good uptick in the percentage of lead flow that comes out of that. So that's been a really cool thing to see coming through as well. And if you haven't taken a look at other areas of the Boost system and your websites and things like that recently, there's been a lot of awesome enhancements there, a lot of feature ads, those kind of things. So if you want us to take a little bit of time with you, check out your setup, make sure your lead flow is correct, take a look at your websites or anything else. Again, just say the word, we're happy to jump in with you and take a look at all that, make sure that's optimized. All right, so Wellness Mastermind. This has been a lot of fun. I think really good for a lot of us participating in that. We've, you know, been trying to find a good time that works for the widest swath of people. So we're moving that again, not tomorrow. Tomorrow will still be at 10 a.m., but starting next week, March 12th, we're going to go to 9 a.m. So a little later than original, but earlier than right now, and hopefully that'll be the sweet spot. So if you're not already joining us for those, that's some great discussion, some great strategy, and we would love to see you there. One last thing for me, just remember, coming up in only a few days now, R4. If you haven't already registered, I'd encourage you to do that, at least for the virtual sessions. Nate and I have been to a number of things that RE/MAX has put on over the last year using this platform for the virtual attendance, and it's been really great. You know, really good interaction still with other people there, easy to use as far as getting to stuff. And the thing I'm most excited about for this R4 with the virtual stuff in particular is that I don't have to pick and choose. Like, you know, typically when we're actually in Las Vegas, you know, there's 15 things going on all in the same time slot, and you have to really try to sort that out. Well, this is great because I can go in and, you know, basically binge whatever I want as far as those training and learning and info opportunities. So there's going to remain access to this, I believe, for at least 30 or 60 days, if I read that correctly. So even if you're not able to like sit at your computer and attend this over these days specifically, if you sign up for that virtual registration, you'll still be able to go back in and log in and, you know, review and rewatch things. Obviously, you're not going to get the direct agent interaction on the recorded sessions after the fact, but still awesome stuff. So if you haven't already done that, check that out. Super affordable, super safe, of course. And I believe they still have a little bit of availability for in-person. So if you want to go to Orlando, again, it's limited in attendees so they can have it you know, done safely. But if you're interested in that, I think you still have an opportunity. So check that out. And
Mike, it's actually, Mike, it's a wait list now for in-person.
Oh, it is?
So,
okay,
yeah.
All right. Well, hey, go virtual with the rest of us. All right, Shannon, you want to jump in?
Good morning, you guys. Just a couple quick things. I'll be quick because we want to get to Liz. She's got a lot of great information, but just a quick reminder that, you know, as you guys know, I'm kind of on my own in terms of Wendy's not with us anymore. So reviewing files and things, if you guys can help me out and make sure you're getting those turned in a timely manner for me. I need my extra time on the broker side to review those as I'm doing them all by myself here right now. So I'm just asking for a little help there, and bear with me. I'm trying to keep up. I feel like I'm doing okay, but if I'm a little slower to get back to people, I'm doing my best, I promise. So also wanted to talk about, I'm seeing a lot of non-MLS listing sales happening. And, you know, I've talked about this a few times, but I just wanted to remind you guys about that language that we have, that it's just a blurb of a disclosure to a seller that says that, and I'll read it to you, what I encourage you to use. It says, seller hereby acknowledges and understands that this property has not been listed in the MLS. So it has not been exposed to all buyers in the market and all agents who are members of the MLS. By accepting an offer prior to exposure on the MLS, seller further acknowledges and understands they could be accepting a sales price less than what they may have been presented through multiple offers, and they still want to accept this and move forward with the offer as presented. The reason that's important is because sellers, oftentimes right now, there's so much word of mouth and talking and neighbors and family that are they're bringing buyers and sellers together, and then they're approaching an agent and saying, you know, we want you to represent us in this transaction, but we already have the other party in place, and we don't want to go on MLS. We just want to sell it this way, and they and that's okay in some cases if that's what they want to do. But I think it's really important for us to make sure we're protecting their best interest on the listing side and encouraging that seller to really understand by doing that what they may not be getting, so that they don't hear about something later and be upset or think they could have gotten more and an agent didn't advise them properly. So just really want you to be careful with that if you're putting those transactions together or you're representing a party in those transactions on the listing side. It's just, we really need to protect that seller's best interest and make sure they understand fully what that means. And then my last thing is I just want to encourage you guys next month to please join us for our monthly meeting. Nate and I are going to be discussing, if for those who are not aware, we just recently finished up a 4.5, going on 5 years now, litigation and lawsuit that included mediations, a couple of different mediations, a full-blown trial that lasted 9 full days, and all the testimony and things that came out of that. Thankfully, it ended on a good note, but we're really going to be digging into that entire transaction and all the things that were done well, the things that could have been done better, the things that just sharing with all the ins and outs of that with you. So I really want to encourage you, because there's a lot of lessons that came out of it, a lot of things we can take away, and we just really want to share those with you guys so you can use that in the future and keep in mind as you're out there working on all your other transactions. So I really want to encourage you guys to be there, and otherwise, I hope you guys have a great week, month in the meantime. If you need anything, of course, always feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Shannon. And with that, we'll go ahead and move that right on over to Liz Recchia. Again, love seeing her here. If you guys have been with us for any period of time, you've seen her face some, and I'm just gonna let you get right into it, Liz. Thank you so much for being here again.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoy being able to present to your office, and hopefully soon I'll be able to come back to your meetings in person. That'll be great. But until then, we have a lot of updates about what's going on. And what I wanted to do is sort of give you, although you're in the market doing what you do, sometimes some of the other aspects of the market, you just don't have time to notice. And it's helpful to know what is going on around you as well. So hopefully some of what I'm going to share today will do exactly that for you. First of all, for those of you who don't know, WeSERV is a 24,000 member real estate association. We service West Valley, Southeast Valley, Pinal, Cochise, and Santa Cruz counties. So a really broad geographic area, which means we have a really broad group of members who can give us lots of input on lots of interesting topics and things that sometimes we need to go advocate on behalf of our members and their clients. And certainly, if you're a member of WeSERV and you are running up against an issue or a topic that you think we can weigh in on, possibly advocate, maybe give you resources for how to deal with that, please let me know. I would be happy to help you in any way possible. And that sometimes is how our task forces come to be, is our members notice something or they're experiencing a difficulty, and then they contact us, and that's how we get involved. And I love it when members do that. For our government affairs meetings on the West Valley this year, they will be different than before, because now we have, for the first time in several years, a government affairs committee. So I'm revamping what we'll do so that we still have that forum element that we had in the last several years, where we have our event, and it was a 3-hour event, and we'd have a big project speaker, and we'd have an educational 1-hour interview with someone who needed to give us some important information, whether it was LLCs or other types of things, or ADA, whatever's going on that we need to know about from a risk management point of view. And then having that forum where you could come in a group and discuss the issues you're experiencing, so that we had an idea of where we need to go as an association to advocate for better things to happen, whether it was to an HOA or to a government entity or to our members to educate them on a topic. So I'm revamping how we can do that under current circumstances. But the government affairs meetings, we only have 4 a year. You are welcome, even if you aren't officially part of the voting, we'll call it the voting part of government affairs meeting. Those applications went out. And if you didn't fill one out because you just didn't have the time, you didn't want to be obligated to go to those meetings, you can pop in anytime to those meetings and you can be part of the conversation. I would absolutely love to have you as part of those conversations. So watch for those notifications. Our next government affairs meeting will be in April. And if memory serves me, it's the 3rd Wednesday of the month, but don't quote me on that. I don't have my calendar in front of me. So it's either the 3rd or 4th Wednesday of the month in April. If you would like to know ahead of time, just email me and I'll give you the dates for all of our meetings this year. But certainly, don't let the fact that it's an official committee stop you from coming to the meetings and being part of the conversation. I really encourage you to do that. And with that, I want to let you know some of our most active right now task forces are our Glendale sign ordinance. And we have responded in person as well as through email and letter to the subcommittee that's now working on the Glendale sign ordinances. So at some point, if you are living or working in Glendale and you would like to have input on that, please let me know. I would love to have you. This draft that this subcommittee is coming up with will eventually go to P&Z, the Planning and Zoning Committee. And that's where we can stand up at the meeting, either virtually or in person, and give them real life examples and input about why we made some of the suggestions we made as part of that sign ordinance changes. And it's wonderful when I have members stand up and say that, because you are bringing life to the statements I have provided them. You are saying this is what's happening in the marketplace with my clients right now. And that is worth a lot to us. So if you would like to be part of that, please let me know. We also have a rural internet task force that we are just now beginning, and that task force will cover all of our territory, because it doesn't much matter where you are in our jurisdictional territory here. There's some part of rural that you are a part of, and they have limited access to internet to the point where some of our areas, they don't even have the ability to use hotspots because they don't have the cell coverage to support that. So we are working right now with that. We're looking on grants with USDA and some other entities to try and put together a program for our rural areas. If you would like to be part of that, let me know. Luke Air Force Base Housing, as some of you know, the Maricopa Association of Governments, MAG, and Luke Air Force Base had a 2-year study on lots of elements that we need to make sure we have as cities and as a community around Luke Air Force Base, to make sure that Luke Air Force Base and its personnel are served, and that if there's ever something like a BRAC commission again, that the government knows we really do want Luke here, and we do things as a community to make sure that they are taken care of. So with that is the housing element, and WeSERV was designated as the coordinator for the housing element of that. I've had meetings with some of the people who lobby on behalf of the West Valley in DC for housing and other elements for Luke. And so we're having that conversation. What does off-base housing needs look like? Looks a lot like for Luke personnel, like it looks like for everyone else. They need something at the entry level for their younger airmen that they can get into to either rent or purchase. And at the other end of the spectrum, they have retirees who want to retire here and need something they can get into. And then in between, we have some of their very large families. They have some families there at Luke that are 5 and 6 and 7 children. So they need those larger homes. So part of what we do is advocate for basically the same thing we do for everyone else, which is that we need a broad spectrum, an arc of product and affordability across the entire spectrum for our communities. And now's a good time to do that, because most of our cities, because of their new city plans that were just approved in 2020, now they're bringing in their land use development ordinances and their planning and zoning codes that'll be going forward for the next 10 to 20 years based on their new city plans. And we have been giving input into that for Surprise, for Glendale, for some of the other cities in our other jurisdictions, saying, here's what it looks like right now today for your incoming buyers. And here's what we think is a great idea for different types of product that we can sell over a 25 or 50 year span. Because let's face it, realtors are going to be selling the product that is built today in 50 years, 75 years. And we have the experience and knowledge to know how different products can age. And sometimes it's not a matter of, is that product a terrible product? Is how you implemented it a poor way of implementing it. So let's talk about how you could have implemented that product better and then preserve the value of that product over time. That is the type of input that's valuable. I've had a meeting with Surprise, as a matter of fact, with the councilmen and their staff regarding a particular product that was going to be proposed and approved in their new land use development code. So how big is the lot? How narrow is the lot? Is there an alley? What kind of amenities do we want to have in a HOA or mandated? At one point, they were talking about mandating every HOA with more than 50 units in it have a pool. And yet for some people, that's not a big value, because sometimes, especially right now with people liking the county trail system, we had one builder who wanted to make their biggest amenity that county trail running through their community. That should count as an amenity. People value, there's a certain group of people who value having that trail center right out their door. That trail system. So we were giving input to that. And I was fortunate to find 3 members who wanted to be at the meeting and give that in-person, real life, here's what this looks like today. Here's what my buyers are looking for. This is an amenity. And then also say, you know, in 50 years, people are going to want to walk the trail system too. Or in 50 years, they're going to want this type of product too. And here's how we know that. So if you are someone who would like to give input to Surprise and some of the other cities who are re-looking at their zoning, planning, and land use development, that's what we're looking for. Your market knowledge and your experience. You don't have to know how to engineer it. Your expertise is knowing the market now and in the future, because you live that every day. So please let me know. And then we have water issues. Water issues stretches across. And as legislation starts to come out from the legislature, it's going to be pushed down implementation to the cities. So if you'd like to be part of those conversations, let me know. You can find blog posts, podcasts, and videos of all sorts of topics at www.weservgad.org. That is a resource for you. Please share that information with your clients or other agents or whoever you would like to. Anytime you see something in red, that is a direct link to that primary resource, so that you are the source of the source, so that you always know those links are going to the organization, the entity, the agency who created that rule, that statement, whatever it was. So please use that resource for yourself. Housing. Wow. Okay. We know there's a shortage, a massive shortage of housing. It's astounding how little we have, but let's look at it for a little bit, just a moment. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, as of December 31st of 2020, we had in the Phoenix metro area, we had 46,618 building permits, with the single family unit, separate detached unit being 31,724 of those, and the multifamily being 14,029. So that represents a 24% increase in single family home permits from 2019 to 2020, and that represents a 32% increase in multifamily in that same year-over-year period. And overall, we had an 18% increase in the median purchase price, which I'm sure you all have seen that and more. So thank you. And so that's what you're experiencing. You know, physically you've been experiencing it, but sometimes it's nice to put a little label on it for those of you who have clients who are of the more meticulous engineering mind. They like to know what those numbers look like. Avondale had statistically, by percentage, the largest increase in permits at 427%, but number-wise, it was not as large as other areas. So our 2020 housing permit numbers looked at Avondale was one of our larger cities at 548. Phoenix was at 4,049. Buckeye was 3,343. Surprise was 2,481. And Maricopa County was 2,424. So we had a lot of building permits. But I always like to look at entitled land because those are lots and projects that are going through the process or have finished that process. And entitled already means those are projects that are ready to be built. So I like to look at untitled projects and see what that looks like. It's kind of hard sometimes to find some of that in some of the city websites. So I'm just going to use Surprise as an example because they made it super easy for me to do this. Surprise, as of about 3 weeks ago, had 50,000 units already entitled and more on the way. And that is being reflected in all of our West Valley cities, those types of numbers, which tells you that we have housing coming and it's going to come at even more increased rates, but we just haven't seen it yet. So last year, we had builders buying 1,721 acres of land to develop and another 14,335 lots overall in the Metro Phoenix area, but they were mostly out here in the West Valley. And the difference between finished lot and your raw land is huge because that entitlement process can take a year, year and a half. So the finished lots is what everyone's been going through. And we saw it initially 5 years ago as people were going into the subdivisions with empty lots and they were doing that initial infill. And now they're going back, they started going back to old subdivisions that had been abandoned and they're going back and getting that replatted and building on that. Well, that is starting to go away. So now increasingly our builders are having to get larger chunks of raw land and start from the very beginning. As that happens, that time frame between the time they purchase it and the time there's a rooftop expands by that year and a half process. However, the cities are trying to make that faster and so are the builders. It's just, that's the reality of that process. So be patient with that and understand where that's coming from and let your buyers know stuff is coming. So all of a sudden, if they say, do you think I should just renew my lease contract for 6 months or a year or 4 years or whatever it is they're thinking, you really have to sort of look at their area and decide if you think there's new product coming sooner than they realize because their land is already entitled or there's builders who are purchasing it. You just can't see it yet, in which case you may see that product pop up in 4 months. So be a little aware of that. It makes a little more work, but it'll be worth it in the long run. So one of the reasons we're seeing this housing shortage is because we have true economic development. We really do have an amazing number of jobs coming in across a wide array of industries right here to the West Valley. We have R&D, research and development, and we have that in medicine. We have that in food. We have that in product development. We have that in mechanical development. So
we're doing that, Bugs. If I want mamas.
Are you? So we have this wide array of different types of R&D. We have manufacturing. We have manufacturing of food, manufacturing of mattresses, manufacturing of windows, manufacturing of aerospace parts, once again, across a wide array. And then we have, and appliances too. Wow, that Sub-Zero plant's really going crazy. We have aerospace, we have data centers, and those data centers are huge and they're growing. We probably have something like 10 data centers sitting on the ground right now with more coming. So if you were to go down Buckeye Road, go up Litchfield, go across on Yuma, go up Dysart to Olive and Dysart there in El Mirage, you will see these large data centers and more are coming. Someone figured out it's really good when you're in a place that doesn't have tornadoes or earthquakes, very stable. So we're looking at those things taking up 50 acres at a time and now getting larger than that. Distribution centers, we all think of Amazon, but think about the product being manufactured and it has to be distributed, whether it is a mattress factory distributing its mattresses or it is a food developer distributing its food or beverage. It's not just Amazon, it's all of those product mixes that need distribution. We have mortgage and real estate industry, of course, is just booming, and financial services are right alongside it. We have transportation and office. So transportation, yes, we usually think of the highways and we see the truckers, but we also have the rail and the air and that type of thing as well. So we have a whole suite of what needs to happen in order to be successful long term, and those are all being improved. And what's happening now is that we have companies coming who bought a big chunk of land and they plan to expand over a 10 to 15 year period. That's being shortened up and they're actually expanding in more of a 1 to 3 year period. And they plan to bring in some of their ancillary groups like product development or something like that, or design or corporate headquarters over that longer term period. Instead, they're shortening that up too. And in that same 1 to 3 year period, they're bringing in their product development division. They're bringing in their design division. They're bringing in their corporate headquarters. So we're seeing a lot of that as well. Redfin recently estimated that over 2020, our area got a net inflow of 82,606 people. That's a lot of people. And while that was across Phoenix Metro, a large number of those people landed right here in the West Valley. And that doesn't count your organic growth. With those people, those out of area people, they have a budget, a purchase budget usually of somewhere around 23% higher than our local buyers, which is why you're seeing our local buyers be so frustrated. And you know that better than anyone else, that's a large part of our frustration is that being outbid. But there's relief coming and we just have to be sort of patient with that as our builders go out farther west and they buy those bigger chunks of land. You will see the infrastructure coming in and you will see that building coming in for houses underneath, and they are following that. You just can't see it yet, but it's all coming there. I will say I like the fact that our cities are pretty aggressive about trying to come in and provide that infrastructure early in the process that will support the residential as well as the commercial. Glendale's done a pretty darn good job of that. Surprise has done a good job of that. Buckeye's doing a good job of it. Buckeye is pulling up, in case you don't know it, they're pulling up that water from the southern end of Buckeye up towards that northwest end, so that whole section of Buckeye west of the white tanks can start being developed and it'll have enough water. So we have a lot of that very aggressive attitude from our cities. So we have a variety of housing that we are lucky to have. We have small little 1-bedroom units, we have apartments, we have condos, we have townhouses, we have single family detached homes. And one of the things that we would like to, as WeSERV as an association, we would like to see is our area's ability to maintain that vast arc of different types of product, both in and out of an HOA that goes to affordability and ability to have your first place as well, or your retirement place. So if you would like to be part of that conversation with us, please let me know. I would love to have you give your input and help us advocate on behalf now while we still can, while there's still opportunity to advocate for that wide array of different types of housing that we need and we will continue to need. In 2015, we had lots of people who did not know what a single family detached rental only subdivision was. And Next Metro was one of the first companies to build that product. It's their Avia product. They built it out in Goodyear. At the time, I still had my brokerage, and I had clients who moved into that they were empty nesters, and that was a place for them to park until they figured out what they wanted to do. So these are people who wanted to maintain their own single family house. They didn't want to buy yet. They wanted to rent. They loved the luxury accompaniments that came with it, like the pool and the spa and the fitness center and things like that. They loved the fact there was 24/7 maintenance. Well, that product, which was little understood or known in 2014 and 2015, is now taken off like a rocket. And you see it all over the West Valley. Up until now, we've had 3 major builders. We've had that Avia product, we've had Christopher Todd, and we've had B&B Living, who have built the vast majority of that product. That is now changing. As that product becomes so darn popular, we are now seeing other investment groups, private investment groups, who are getting out of the multifamily business, selling that product to someone who's an investor from Washington or California or Canada, and they're taking those revenues, and instead of investing into another multifamily type of project, they are investing now to build their own single family detached residential rental only community. And we are seeing, in fact, Hancock builders who had been building the product for Christopher Todd as of this year, they will be building their own Hancock communities on that same model that they did for Christopher Todd. They're going to go ahead and do their own. Well, we have a lot of investment companies, investment entities, and private investors who are doing that as well. So although we thought we would see like maybe 25,000 of those type of units over a 5-year period, I think we're going to see a lot more of that now and faster, as we have now those private investors coming in and entering into that market. And sometimes they're going into areas you wouldn't normally have thought they would go into. Up until now, they've gone into areas that needed development, and we're on that western edge or that southern edge of Phoenix. Well, now they're coming in and they're sort of taking up those plots in different locations that are more and have been occupied by commercial and residential for a very long time. And one of the examples is an investment group that's looking at the corner of 51st Avenue and Bell and thought, hey, that might be a place for us to build our first community of this type. So you will start seeing those pop up in different places. So keep that in mind as you have clients who need a place to rent long-term or short-term. Those can be a great alternative to doing that. And a lot of them now have a program where if you need to build up your credit score along the way so you can purchase, they actually have programs to help you do that as part of their rental programs. So what other spaces are in demand? Well, we know there's industrial, there's manufacturing to distribution, and there is medical. Medical is just busting out all over West Valley, which is great because for so long we had to travel to Scottsdale or Phoenix to get most any kind of medical care. Well, that is all coming to us now. And it's coming to us in very different ways than what it looks like in the other areas because we are building out at a time when innovation is happening. So we're building with the innovation that comes with that. So if you go down McDowell from 99th Avenue in West Phoenix all the way through to Buckeye, what you will see is a developing medical corridor. That's a really excellent example. You will see large hospitals. You will also see clinics. You'll see satellite hospitals. So Phoenix Children has a satellite hospital off of McDowell in Avondale. You will see more clinics and rehab. So services that for a very long time you had to go to a main hospital to get. You had to go to St. Joseph's down on Thomas, or you had to go to Banner, or you had to go to a hospital to get those rehab facilities. All of a sudden, those are breaking out as different units, and they're coming into the West Valley as their own standalones. So we will have a rehab, for instance, in Avondale, they just landed a rehab hospital that will have 30 beds, and it specializes in treatment for people who have had traumatic brain injury, who have had the major hip surgeries, spinal cord injuries. So it's that type of specialized rehab hospital, and it'll be right here in the West Valley. Those are the type of things we're seeing. About a block, that'll be at 100 and, was it 109th? Yeah, 109th in McDowell is where that's going to land. And if you were to be at 107th in McDowell, you would see the brand new remote medicine facility that is just finishing up. So all of that is starting to come into play. So watch the medical office space, laboratory space, rehab space, clinic space, and you will see that it's busting out. And it's busting out all over West Valley. So we'll talk about in a minute some of the new hospitals coming to some of the areas, but those are just really quick ones to let you know. Our industrial sector is expanding so quickly that the physical size of the buildings is dramatically different. You know, it wasn't that long ago, 2 years ago, when 625,000 square foot for an industrial building was a good sized building. Well, now we are routinely seeing what is becoming now average is 1 million square foot building. That is becoming something that our commercial agents and brokers are seeing more regularly, a request for land that will accommodate that size of building. And what some of us don't see is that existing buildings, because they need more space, are building on the mezzanine level. So inside the roof line that you have passed for so long and seen just that building, you still see that same building, but they've actually gone vertical. So they actually have doubled or tripled their ability to store product and to, whether it's raw product for their manufacturing or it's finished product to go out into the marketplace. So we have an immense amount of expansion, and some you can see and some you can't. And then we have that technology sector that's coming. And if you followed, Taiwan Semiconductors has in fact decided to land here in North Phoenix at roughly 303 and the 43rd Avenue alignment. City of Phoenix took some land around that just a couple of weeks ago and designated that as that support business zoning, because anytime you have something like a Taiwan Semiconductor, a large manufacturer, there's a lot of smaller companies that come in and build or provide those support products and pieces that they need in order to do their finished product. And they want them all nestled there together. We see the same thing down in Pinal with Lucid and the battery and other types of construction they need for their cars. They're all grouped there together. And you'll see the same thing as Nikola does their thing. So anytime you have a large product producer like that, the benefit is, in this case, yes, you get the 1,600 jobs from Taiwan Semiconductor. The other benefit is that all of those support businesses, they're going to bring in more good paying, long-term jobs as well. So watching for that stability and watching for what happens, which means all of that North Peoria housing that we were talked about for so long and is finally busting open. Yeah, it's going to go even faster than you thought. So that's all great information. And if you've been watching state land sales, you know that from June to December of last year, state land department sold a lot of land, some of it for residential and a lot of it though for this type of manufacturing. So we are bringing in more jobs. Samsung is looking at the West Valley as well. And we'll see if they end up landing here. We're in competition with Texas and a location in New York. Personally, I think we win, but we'll see what Samsung decides. So those are type of things that we are now getting, is that next level of major businesses. And in fact, I was just on the phone with Avondale's Economic Development about a week ago now, and they are courting a company out of the Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area to bring all their jobs and their headquarters here to Avondale. That is not a untypical conversation that is happening. And what they needed was some help getting them to understand the West Valley and who we are and what we are. So we were able to provide a couple of assets, and these are assets you can access as well. As part of our Luke Air Force Base housing, we also helped create a product that is basically a pricing heat map that anyone can use. And if you go to WeSERVGAD.org and you go to the search for topics and go to Luke Air Force Base Strategic Growth Initiative, you can click there, and the article that comes up has all the links into these different products, which you can use for any client, not just Air Force Base. One of those products was that map, and the MLS actually came in and helped MAG and us get to a point where we can have a heat map so that people can see easily, based on their price point, about where in this West Valley they will find a product they can afford. And that's very helpful so that you don't have to do the initial, you can't just live anywhere you want. You have a price point, you need to zone in on certain areas because that's your price point. That's what you can afford. The map helps you do that. They can easily see where the most affordable areas for them are, and then have that conversation with you. Okay, within these areas, where can I go? What's the product? What's going on? And it sort of helps that conversation and get them into a reality mindset about what they can do and not do. No, you can't afford that $1 million house, even though you love the area, don't we all? So that's the type of conversation you can have. So use that tool if it's helpful to you. It also has some other assets like bike trails and education facilities and stuff like that. So your clients can find out more about the area assets as well. And it's directly from the source. So you don't have to worry about where that information is coming from. It's actually coming from the county and from the different school districts. So that education information is there as well. And so with that, we have those assets that can be used, and you can use that with we also provided them with another asset, which I had done a video for Luke Air Force Base Housing, explaining the amazing types of housing we have and the variety here in the West Valley, both for lease and purchase. I redid that as a product for the city of Avondale for this particular purpose, and I will be redoing it so that you can have access to it. And I will post it when it's finished. I will post it up on WeSERVGAD.org so you can have that housing video for your clients. And so when you have clients going, I don't know about the West Valley, send them that video. It will tell them about all sorts of things in the West Valley and show them pictures, because it just is amazing to people what is happening out here. And until you see the pictures, you don't really understand. So watch for that asset to come up on WeSERVGAD.org probably in the next week or two. We'll have that final video out for you. As we look around, sometimes I like to look and see what's going on in other places. For those of you who like to look at downtown Phoenix, yes, that big project is called Phoenix, Astra Phoenix. That was approved by Phoenix City Council. It'll be 2 large towers downtown. It's going to have a luxury hotel, and it's going to have Class A office, and it's going to have retail, and it's going to have restaurants. And one of those 2 towers will eventually be the tallest building in Arizona. Right now, Chase Bank downtown is, well, they're going to go taller than Chase Bank. When you look at Tempe, some of the big renovation there, if you know anything about the light rail station there by ASU, where Macayo's is, that is all going to be renovated. That's off of Farmer in Tempe, and they're going to do a 2-tower thing as well. They're going to totally renovate the Macayo's restaurant. It'll stay there, but it'll be totally renovated. And then you're going to see 2 towers, one on either side of that light rail. Pardon me. And there'll be a bridge connecting those 2 buildings. Well, that bridge will actually be a pool deck. And yes, if you know anything about Tempe, there is no parking anywhere. They're going to build a 7 7-story structure there that's going to be parking only. So look for some of that, because some of that all becomes a draw for people who say, well, what else do you have besides here in the West Valley? Where else can I go? Well, you know, you can go there. You can go downtown. There's lots of things you can see and do that's in quick distance of a drive from West Valley. For those of you who like the theme park type of thing and the big water park, I'm sure you've heard about Crystal Lagoons coming to Glendale. That is going to be at 95th Avenue and Cardinal Way, right across the street from State Farm Stadium. It is sort of along the Disney concept. Very big, very amazing. The luxury hotel, the lagoon will be sort of a sandy beach, quiet place, but they're also going to have a place for surfing, and they're going to have the big water park, and they're going to have a theme park with the roller coasters and that type of thing. And then they'll also have office, and they'll also have restaurants, and they'll have a couple other hotels that are less expensive than the luxury hotel that that they're bringing in for that. So watch that project. It will be done by the end of 2022 because the Super Bowl is coming in 2023 and they want to make sure that thing is up and running. So right now projections are October of 2022 to see that entire thing finished. And yes, East Valley's getting their version of it. Mesa's getting their version of that same thing. It's Cannon Beach, same developer. As we stay, if we stay on the west side and we go to Peoria, our Peoria Stadium, yes, that's getting a renovation and they'll have more parking, but the area around that is called Stadium Point. And that developer's coming in and he is going to bring in hotels, higher, taller buildings. So we are used to seeing what, 3, maybe 5 stories at the max in West Valley. Well, you're going to start seeing taller buildings out there for hotels and for office and for other types of things. Parking, increased parking structure for parking, not only for that business, retail, hotel area, but also to service what's going on at the stadium. And altogether, the hope is that this project and the Peoria Stadium project, it will pretty much look seamless when you're on the ground. You will not know when you have walked across from one project to the other. It's all going to sort of be together as one great big entertainment area, in addition to what they already have with the restaurants and things there. So watch for that. One of the big trends we're seeing is our large employers in East Valley who used to have their West Valley employees commuting an hour to an hour and a half one way to get a job, to get to their job, then reversing that in the evening. Well, one thing COVID did was it turned those employees into people going, nah, I do not want to spend 3 hours of my life again on freeways every single day, 5 days a week. Not going to do that. So those employers are now coming to the West Valley and they're looking at West Valley and North Phoenix, and they're trying to find smaller office buildings that their employees are willing to travel to. So 20 to 30 minutes away from home. No more than 30 minutes, 20 minutes is preferable. Find me an office building. I would be happy to go back in an office that's 20 minutes away from home. I am not traveling an hour, hour and a half to get to your office again. So we are seeing office space now, and now we're starting to see our empty retail space being converted into either medical or office, because those are our 2 biggest needs around here right now. So it is not unusual to see empty retail being converted into office and medical facilities. So watching that, you don't necessarily see some things where you would normally see them, and now that's happening. So reuse of space is becoming more common. I want to make sure you know, if you're familiar with the 303, you know it is an industrial magnet out there, and we have our latest and biggest logistics center, Bethany Home Saraval Logistics Center. As the name would imply, it's at Bethany Home and 303 near Saraval. It's going to be a 2.25 million square foot campus, and that's all logistics. So watch for that. And then I wanted to let you know about some new housing product that we're starting to see erupt. And we in the West Valley are a lot of times the first place you're going to see it. So Lennar has had their home within a home, their next gen homes, for 10 years now or something like that. Well, they have now beefed that up. They're coming out with a new product. It's called their Super House. It is designed for multi-generational families to live in from the outset. And it also couples with it the large RV garages as part of that initial build out. And by RV garage, I mean the ones that can take like a Bluebird luxury bus style RV. So any RV you have is going to fit in there just fine. So they have decided that they have identified those multi-generational families, which have been there. That's why they had the home within the home. But now it's even more so, because we know that 10, 15 years ago, yeah, you'd have 3 generations, sometimes 4, but now you have increasingly having that 3 to 4 generation family all in one space. So they're designing homes around that and the things that those families seem to want. So that product you will first see in Asante up in Surprise, and in Buckeye at Arroyo Seco. Those two communities will premiere those products. KB Home has teamed up with Mayo Clinic, and they now have a demonstration house at their Santolina at South Mountain Project. That is what they are calling their healthy home, their healthy living home. And because they have teamed up with Mayo, they've gone through the entire house and decided and looked at how can we make this house a better place for you to live in and still maintain health and wellness. And it's things like at the home office, how do we design the home office so that it is ergonomically just designed better for you? If you're going to spend a lot of time in the office, we should at least design the office space better than it has been, which has been an empty room with no clue what to do. So they're premiering that product down there at that project. So if you're interested in that, go look at that. Meritage has teamed up with Sonnen batteries, as has Mandalay Homes and Capstone. And what they're looking at is the virtual power plants that you have in your home. These are amazing structures. They are maybe a foot wide, deep, I should say, and maybe 2 feet wide. So they can fit sometimes in that little wall cutout that you barely even notice when you're transitioning from one room to the other. And that's usually where they put them. And it's your own power plant. What it does is if you have solar on your roof, it collects and stores that energy from your solar cells. Couple different builders are using these in a couple different ways. First of all, if you have solar, you know one of the biggest sticking points is how do I collect that energy and use it when I need it? Or how do I collect that energy and sell it back to the power company when it's at peak pricing and it benefits me most? How do I do this? And storage from your solar has been something that has been just difficult to do and extraordinarily expensive. So it priced people out. Well, this is being priced for the average homeowner, which makes solar a whole new game. So what you do is you collect it and it's there. Now, how do you handle it? Well, in the Meritage project, they're going to do their demonstration project here in Arizona. It's not up yet, but they're in the process of planning that right now. They've designed it so that battery storage is part of the grid, so that it, through software, will monitor what's going on. And if you don't need the energy that's being stored there, then it's going to automatically sell it off to the grid, particularly at peak times, which means, 6 to 8 in the morning, 6 to 8 in the evening. If you don't need the extra energy that you've stored during the day in your battery, it's going to sell it off at peak periods to the grid, which means that you're going to get a higher price for it, which means it's going to net out more savings on your electric bill. So that's how they're going to use it. And then Sonnen, the battery company, also teamed up with some builders up in Prescott. So you can go up there right now and see this subdivision. It's a 3,000 home master plan community. And the Mandalay Homes built some of the houses, and Capstone is building the others. But they all have the same battery in all of the houses. And they have designed that entire master plan community to be off-grid. It generates through the savings of each person at their house and the ability for the communities software, that Sonnen Battery Communities platform, to manage the power. They don't have to be on the grid. They end up sharing the stored power from each house whenever it needs to happen, and wherever ramping up or ramping down, which is one of the biggest problems with solar and wind, is how do you ramp up and ramp down during major peak periods? This battery takes care of that. And so that community is a self-sufficient, energy efficient community. Not only do they have the building products that you would expect, but now they have the ability to store their own energy from each house, and then they can share it as a community as that community needs ramp up and ramp down. Very interesting concept, and it is working. So if you are into green energy and housing, and you have clients who that is an important thing, you might want to take a trip up to Prescott and look at this community just so you're aware of how the off-grid portion works. And then there's, of course, people who are going to want this for themselves because they, as an individual property, don't want to be on the grid, or they, as an individual property, want to store energy so that in the case that the grid goes down, or there's a problem with our electricity, they still have stored electricity within their own home from their own solar. And let's face it, look what happened in Houston. Sun didn't sun, it iced over, no solar. wind instead it froze the turbine. So some of the first energy generation that went down in Houston was those, and nobody had a way to help themselves. Well, this is a way to help yourself. If something happened and your usual power generator went down, you would have a battery storage for your house to help you get through those times when you didn't know something like that could happen. And it did. So for those type of people who are very conscious of the fact that sometimes bad things happen and we just don't know it can even happen, this is a great thing for them too. So you have lots of different client bases who will be interested in this. So I encourage you to look at it more and to think about it. Personally, I think this is an amazing thing for our housing products, and I would love to see this just roll out very quickly, but we're still in that demonstration phase for a lot of people. For those of you who are interested in some of the larger products coming out there, Alamar is open. It's been open since October in Avondale. It's 1,130 acre master plan communities. Broadway and Avondale West is where it's huge. They just did a groundbreaking for their 41 acre park, which will be open to the greater Avondale Community Public Park as well. And the trail system, once again, the county trail system runs through that. So it's part of the amenities that they put into that. So if you are looking for houses, they sold half of the product that they thought they would sell in the first year, they sold in the first 3 months. So they are really ramping up production there. As we go through, let's see there. Oh, North Peoria. For those of you who are selling in North Peoria, they're getting a small hospital and ER at Lake Pleasant and Jomax. And as you know, Valley Wise has already opened up theirs at Grand and Cotton Crossing. Let me see here. Century Communities is coming in with 2,400 lots that they are building on. Those are finished lots, so it's going to go up fast in Avondale, Surprise, and Goodyear. Their first development will be near Asante in Surprise. That's where they're going to first start building. And they're looking at a price point of high 200s to mid 300s. And then Taylor Morrison purchased 178 acres out in North Peoria at 303. Actually, this is a 303. So it's on either side of the 303. Goes from Peoria Avenue up to Cactus on either side of the 303. They purchased that land not that long ago. And here's the type of thing that you can't see, but we know is here. So I took a snapshot of the corner of 99th Avenue and Indian School. Right now, at that corner, if you were to stand there, you are looking at 6,500 housing units. You can't see most of them yet. You can see some of them in process and some of them you can't see at all yet, but 6,500 housing units right there at that corner are coming in. So that tells you how fast things are coming in, when they can get there. Also in up here at 75th Avenue and Jomax in North Peoria, Shea Homes bought 415 acres in December from the state land auction. And right next to that, Ashton Woods bought a plot of land of 328 acres at 75th Avenue and Happy Valley. So that tells you that stuff is coming in. As you look down the road, what you realize is that Douglas Trillium, which is now Douglas Ranch, out, if you're in Surprise, you go out the Valley Parkway as you head towards Anthem and Sun City Festival. Past that, and you take the curve down on the other side of the White Tanks down to Buckeye. Well, that area between Surprise and the other side of Anthem, Sun City Festival, that's going to start filling up with product as well. And it's not that far at that point from Douglas Ranch. So there's already 5 builders talking to Douglas Ranch. That project will eventually have 119,000 houses on it. So that tells you where we're going. Have a little patience. We know that things are coming. They're coming quickly. They're going to start phasing in. I know it's difficult to keep track of it because it's so fast, but we do have housing coming. Assets that you might be interested in, if you go to WeSERVGad.org and you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you will see that we have task force flyers. Those were developed as educational flyers for you and your clients to use. We have water in Arizona for those folks who come and they don't know anything about water in Arizona. And so when you say assured water supply or adequate water supply, or if they're in commercial and you say you have to find the legal description for that, or someone buys property with a well and they've never owned a property with a well, well, we have links to resources for commercial and residential, so to help them get through that process, as well as really succinct, simple definitions. So use that for people who need to understand water in Arizona. It's right there under the task force flyers. We have free assumability, which most of you are aware of, carbon dioxide, and Arizona rangeland. Arizona is an open rangeland state. People don't realize in the economic development sometimes that their house is now on open rangeland, and what that means, which is animals have rights. And you may have to pay for damage or death of an animal to the rancher if you have not put up the correct fence, and there's only one kind of fence that counts in open rangeland. So we have that flyer with live links that allows people to find out, first of all, if they're on open rangeland, and if they are, that one-page flyer gives them basic information they need to know before they purchase that, or if you're going to sell, they need to disclose that. So those are some of the tools, and we'll be coming up with more as well. So that's a basic highlight of what I have. I'm sure there's some questions about some of the other items that are going on.
I have a question, because that was like a bit of a fire hydrant.
Yes.
All this, it's such good information. So we're getting redirected to WeSERV.
Well, so the WeSERVGad.org is where we have it. All of that, all that WeMar stuff I created over the last 4 or 5 years. And when we tried to turn it to WeSERV, they told us that we would probably lose 50% of it.
Oh, so you got WeSERV.
So WeSERV points to that. And so it's WeSERVGad.org to get all the information, but that's why you see the old URL there.
And in terms of all the, I just love all the information you gave us about all the new construction and all that. Is there any place on your website that we can kind of look at what's happening and being developed and that?
So there's a couple of resources, and I'm in the process of doing I do periodically through the year, I'll do a big project update. So some of what you just heard plus more, I have compiled. It'll probably go live this weekend or Monday, my big project update list with links into these different things. And I'll have a standalone for the virtual power supply, because that's something people don't really understand. So I'll have a blog post about that. So we'll do all that. But beyond that, if you go into maps on WeSERVGad.org, you will see cities that have activated an easy to use interactive map. I have that map up there. Sometimes it's their zoning map, sometimes it's their economic development map. And sometimes cities like Glendale, you'll go in there and you'll find a whole list of maps that they have of different types of things that you can zoom in on and see what's going on, whether it's parks or whether it's that parcel, and they give you information. In Avondale, the map that you get for your interactive map came out of economic development. And so you can hover over it and it'll tell you, this is zoned industrial, this is zoned commercial, this is that. So, and then if you also go into maps, you will find the MAG, Maricopa Association of Governments, who is the author of a lot of maps that the cities use, and a lot of the data that happens in this county comes out of MAG. And we had them as guests a couple of years ago, about 1.5 years ago now. And so I've linked to them. They are an amazing amount of information. So look for the Maricopa Association of Governments MAG maps, and go there and you will find all sorts of information, all sorts of maps. All of them are now interactive. At the time we had them, they didn't have interactive, but all of them are interactive. You will also find a link to the MAG transportation study, which right now I would encourage all of you to take the transportation study. It's open to the end of the month. You certainly drive the roads. You certainly know what people want as far as pedestrian walkways and bikeways and hiking trails. And that's all the questions that they ask, because that study is going to be a key part of what happens for the next 20 years of guiding the cities and the county in what kind of roadways, pedestrian ways, bikeways needs to be developed. So MAG is a place you want to go. And I'll refresh some of those links. A lot of them are being refreshed right now. Quite frankly, some of the links, because everyone did their city plans in 2020, they're in the middle of refreshing some of their maps and relocating them in some cases and freshening them up. So if you get a broken link, let me know, and I'll make sure that's one of the first ones I refresh. I have a whole list that have to be refreshed. They've been very busy. So
really great information. Thank you.
You're welcome. And while we're on transportation, for those of you who are familiar with Southwest Valley, you know that the plans for a very long time for SR 30, well, with as you'll recall, Proposition 400 funded 101 and some of the other roadway projects in the East Valley and Phoenix. The extension of Prop 400 extension funded the rest of the 101 out here, and the 202 that we see now out of Maryvale that goes down into Chandler. And it funded some of our roadways and parkway improvements that we're seeing here in the West Valley. Well, now it's time for that to come back again on the ballot. It will be called Prop 500 this time. It's going to encompass a lot of the products that we're talking about out of the cities and the county. That's how they decide which projects, because as you recall, what we do in this state is we say, here's the project list of what we'll do and how much it'll cost. This is how much that 0.5-cent sales tax that we're collecting from you is to cover these projects. And at the end of the time period, what we have seen is we get those projects. So right now, the population, the voting population has been very inclined to renew that every time it comes up, because they actually get to have the projects that were promised. So it's important for you to give your input on that so that we get those projects. And SR 30 is important because it runs from 85 to the South Loop of the 202 down the backbone of that industrial and manufacturing in the West Valley. So getting that product in and out is important rapidly. We gave up in the West Valley, we gave up that funding on the last Prop 400 extension because East Valley needed some of their stuff. They're about 10 years ahead of us. They needed some of their stuff much more. So we gave up the little baby highway and said, we'll wait till the next round. Well, this is our round now, and they will build a proper 4 or 5 lane highway now, rather than the temporary they originally slated. So that's why that's important.
So anyone else can jump in here with questions, take this opportunity for sure, because as you see, Liz is just an incredible resource. But one thing I want to jump in and thank you again. But like Lynette was saying, it is kind of like drinking from a fire hose. So again, wemargad.org, WeSERVGad.org, great resource, lots of information there. But if someone's looking for a particular type of information, just not really sure where to go and find it, is there someone they can ask? Is there a hotline, something like that? Or do you guys still do, I think you had like a podcast or a weekly or monthly wrap up kind of thing with this sort of stuff in a mini format?
I did podcasts, and I haven't done a podcast for 2021, but those will come back at the end of this month for exactly that reason. It's a really good synopsis of what just happened that week for the most part. So that will be coming back. In the meantime, if there's some resource you're looking for, you can always email or call me, and I will help you find that resource or direct you to where it is. And a really good way to find out if we have that resource on the WeSERVGad.org website is to go to topics and search your topics there. Sometimes you can find it faster searching topics because we have so much there. Other times you can just look at the categories. So yes, call me, email me. I'd be happy to help.
That's great. Obviously, this is something that sets you all apart from, again, other professionals in the industry, taking the time to know this stuff. Again, if you can speak intelligently, kind of like you were saying earlier, Liz, about the difference between even like permits and entitlements, right? And what's coming on, what's happening, like if you know what your clients are looking for in the near term and longer term, you can talk about things like that super home product and those kind of things and really be strategic with them. I mean, that is incredible info to have. And I'm a pretty big, tech and clean energy geek and whatnot. And I had no idea that Mandalay and Sonnen community had come so far, right? So, I mean, there's so much out there. Yeah, it's an incredible resource. Thank you.
You're welcome. I will also like to remind you that if you have clients or you yourself are invested in opportunity zones, those time extensions were extended. So go to WeSERVGad.org, and we have an article on that with the links directly into that, depending upon where you were in that investment and development process. Your extension could either be end of March or end of June. Also want to let you know, if you are dealing with clients who are part of the eviction foreclosure forbearance issues, those timelines for VA, FHA, USDA, Fannie and Freddie were extended to June, end of June 2021. CDC is still March, but we'll see. They'll probably extend as well, given the current circumstances, but we haven't seen that officially yet. So I put those notices up there as well, so that you can keep on top of those extensions. And keep in mind that FHA, Fannie and Freddie also changed some of their forbearance terms with this last extension as well. So if you have clients already in forbearance with one of those 3 backed loans, then you're going to want to go in and link into the forbearance terms that have changed. It's extensions in some cases, and some cases they put in different parameters of how you qualify.
All right, anything else you want to ask Liz while we've got her here this morning? Well, if something pressing jumps out to you after we wrap up here, you can see that Kim shared Liz's contact information in the chat there. And thank you again so much for being here. You know, it's such just an incredible stream of information. I'm sure we all made a whole lot of notes here. Again, everyone check out wemarkad.org. Lots of great information there. You can start from that topic section to kind of narrow it down, and be on the lookout for the return of the podcast. I'm excited about that myself. It's such a great wrap up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me. I really enjoy this.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Well, hey, have a fantastic March here. And if there's anything any of us can help you with, please don't be shy. Go out there, be kind, be nice, make it happen. Have a great month.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye, everyone.